Hello, everyone. I wanted to go over the 10 products that Microbiome has in the Total Gut Restoration Program. So it's very well documented that if the key areas of gut integrity are not held intact, then a chronic inflammatory disease will exacerbate. So those three areas are the mucin 1 layer, which is the illustrated here in all the different colors to show diversity. So the most diverse microbiomes are going to be the healthiest microbiomes. And you can see that there is LPS that is in this mucin 1 layer, but it's being buffered because there's a healthy diversity and there's a good immune system of secretory IgA that is arresting the lipopolysaccharide. The second key area is the amount of keystone strains, and these correlate directly with good health. And the third area is the mucin 2 layer, which is this thick gelatinous coating that protects the microvilli, the tight junctures, and the integrity of the epithelial cells. Below the epithelial cells in the lumen of the cell is the circulating immune cells, and their job is to arrest any toxins or any substance that breaches this epithelial barrier. On the right-hand side, we see what happens in metabolic endotoxemia, otherwise known as leaky gut, where the diversity is destroyed because there's a shift in the population of the microbiome, reduction of the keystone strains, a degradation of mucin 2, and a breach of the epithelial cells. At that point, there is an influx of lipopolysaccharide, pathogens, and undigested food particles. And that is what triggers the immune systems, causes an inflammatory cascade of cytokines and interleukins, which leads to raging inflammation. This is the point that exasperates all chronic illness, is the point of autoimmune disease genesis, food sensitivities, and allergies. So what other things can lipopolysaccharide lead to? Each one of these is accompanied by a white paper. So there's good research to show the connection between LPS, or lipopolysaccharide, and leptin resistance, chronic constipation, mood and appetite disorders, depression, cognitive decline, loss of memory and recall, anorexia nervosa, anxiety, chronic pain, Parkinson's, hypogonadism, and autoimmunity. Our test was to find out what impact megaspore, the 5 bacillus spores, would have on lipopolysaccharide. And this was demonstrated in a publication in August of 2017 in the World Journal of Gastrointestinal Pathophysiology. And the results of that study were extreme. What we found was a 45% reduction in the spore-treated group and an overall reduction of 60% of lipopolysaccharide. But there were other indicators as well that were improved. And this makes sense. If you're reducing the lipopolysaccharide, you're reducing the toxic load, you're reducing the metabolic endotoxemia, and other indicators can start improving. The first to improve in this 30 days, besides the lipopolysaccharide, is triglycerides, ghrelin, and key inflammatory markers that are at the source of autoimmune disease. In 90 days, which is what is shown in the next list of indicators, improved would be glucose, insulin, leptin, and another list of inflammatory markers for other chronic illnesses. Each one of these indicators is in a standalone clinical trial. Besides human clinical trials, the most effective way to test probiotics on the market is through a technology called SHIME, Simulator of Human Intestinal Microbial Ecosystem. And this is a model of the gastrointestinal tract from stomach to colon. You are able to study chemicals, enzymatic and microbial variables of the digestive tract in a controlled in vitro setting. It includes 5 reactors, which is the stomach, the small intestine, the ascending, transverse, and descending colon areas. And in this way, you're able to inoculate this model with a microbiome and then feed it either probiotics or Roundup or other toxins to find out what the effect is going to be. And then analyze what the mechanisms of action are and what improvement or damage is done to the microbiome. So our first SHIME study publication was published just recently in 2017, and this was to show the symbiotic relationship between megaspore and then the addition of the mega prebiotic. And what we found was a significant increase in the abundance of diversity and specific keystone strains of Bifidobacterium, Lactobacillus, Faecalibacterium perniciae, Akkermansia musciphylla, compared to just taking megaspore alone. So in terms of amount, you get a 20% increase with megaspore alone, but an 80% increase when you add the prebiotic. So our key program of total gut restoration includes 3 ingredients: the 5 megaspores in the probiotic, the prebiotic powder, and then a intestinal mucosa builder in the form of a powder. The other clinical trial that has recently been published is on HU58, and this shows the amount of interleukin-6 and TNF alpha that is reduced, which is extreme, by just using this one spore probiotic. The other use for this probiotic is for hepatic encephalopathy because of its ability to reduce ammonia. There's also indications that it supports serotonin and dopamine production. The second SHIME study that has recently been published has to do with the bacillus spores and irritable bowel syndrome. And what the study shows is that megaspore reduces irritable bowel severity score better than the common pharmaceutical on the market. This is our third probiotic, which contains the same HU58 that is in the standalone single spore probiotic, as well as Bacillus clausii and Saccharomyces boulardii. And this is a very effective tool when you're looking at acute and chronic diarrhea, gut reconditioning, post-antibiotic, SIBO, candida overgrowth, and UTIs, especially when you don't have time to titrate up on the 5-spore ingredient of megaspore. This product is very effective against yeast such as candida. But we also know that when you have an overall myco or mycotoxin burden, it's very helpful to balance your gut and reduce the yeast because it takes such a toll on your immune system. Once you're able to reduce the yeast and balance your gut, your immune system is better able to handle the mold or mycotoxin load. This is how the MMycoBalance works. We know that candida has hypha, which looks and acts very much like roots that destroy the tight junctions in the epithelial barrier. So the undecalinic acid that's in the MMycoBalance stops the hypha formation of the candida. Therefore, it's not able to attach and it cannot cause this damage. Undecanoic acid is a very strong antifungal. And with all of our products, they are strong and should be titrated accordingly. This is a recent product that we have launched called MMycoGuard, MGuard. And it contains 3 ingredients: artichoke leaf from Globe Artichoke, licorice, which is a potent licorice flavonoid content, and ginger root extract. This artichoke is very helpful in bile flow. In the recent indications that there is a 4th type of detoxification referred to as phase 2.5, and that involves bile. We know that bile is a potent antimicrobial, and if you don't have good bile flow, this could be one of the source causes of dysbiosis. And when there's dysbiosis, the bile flow that you do have will be compromised. Secondary bile salts, when they're unconjugated, are very toxic and can lead to chronic diarrhea. So this formula has been very effective at improving bile flow that has been reported to help with chronic diarrhea. It also helps with gas and bloating and upper digestive tract issues such as GERD, dyspepsia. And this particular potent flavonoid licorice content stops the protein synthesis of H. pylori and can bring that organism back into balance. The ginger helps with gastric emptying and transit. The most recent launch of our products have been Wheat Rescue. And you can see this formula contains 2 of our spores and the Saccharomyces boulardii. It also contains very potent enzymes that break down the wheat proteins that lead to inflammation, the gluten and the gliadin. This product is a very helpful aid to those who are trying to avoid wheat and are on gluten-free diets. The studies show that gluten-free diets still may contain about 30% gluten in hidden sources. So for those who are trying to avoid it and suffer with the inflammation caused by wheat proteins, this is a helpful product. It also would work as a maintenance after they've done the total gut restoration. This is a helpful diagram to see the role that vitamin K2 plays in the body. We know that vitamin K2 is a fermented product from our gut microbiome organisms. Food sources of this are very difficult to obtain. So it's important to have healthy gut microbiome. Unfortunately, most individuals who have a compromised gut microbiome do not produce enough vitamin K2. And this will lead to calcification in soft tissues. And this is how. Vitamin D, of course, stimulates and mobilizes calcium. But if there's not sufficient vitamin K2, this calcium will end up in the soft tissues. It's vitamin K2's job to convert the released osteocalcin to carboxylated osteocalcin. And then it can be added to the bones. Vitamin K2 also helps with resorption. So different clinical aspects that we have seen this work effectively in is blood pressure dropping, because once you're removing the calcium deposits in the soft tissue, then the heart doesn't have to work so hard and the blood pressure drops. We've also seen where kidney stones and gallbladder stones will dissolve. So it's a very effective formula because it's in a stable menaquinone gold formula, and it's at a high enough dose to supply the microbiome of the gut and then have enough left over to enter into the host circulation. We have two forms of our vitamin K2. Megaquinone, which is a absorption formula because it contains not only vitamin K2, but also a small amount of vitamin K1. This is important in order to stop the conversion of those who are depleted in K1 and converting the K2 to K1 to replete that depletion. It also contains magnesium and zinc. But the K2 is what is responsible for removing the calcium from the tissues and arteries, halting the bone and mineral loss, protecting the brain and nerve tissue, inducing apoptosis of leukemic cells, reducing the risk of prostate and liver cancers, improving insulin sensitivity, and enhancing male fertility by increasing testosterone production, as well as activity of sperm. And it does this because the quinone is a clue that vitamin K2 is very important in mitochondria and energy production, not only in the microbiome, but also in us, the human host. MyoMax has the same vitamin K2 without the other ingredients of K1, magnesium, and zinc. But all of the things that the other formula did, MyoMax will do as well. With the addition of the clinical trial that was performed on MyoMax to demonstrate maximal cardiac output increase by 19% and blood volume increase. So this was showing an additional aspect in the cardiovascular world that had not been shown before. This is a side-by-side of the two products, so you can clearly see the differences. There's a slight amount increase of the K2 in the megaquinone. That's to compensate for what may be converted to K1. This is the formula to prevent any conversion and help with absorption. This lists all of the aspects that would be affected with the addition of athletic performance, blood volume, and cardiovascular output. The calcium pyruvate that's in the MyoMax is not a calcium form, but only a carrier for the pyruvate to help with mitochondrial production. And then the final point is the soon-to-launch BiomeFX stool test, which we expect to have on the market the end of December, the beginning of January. When this launches in its first form, it will be the most advanced stool test technology on the market. In its phase 2 launch, sometime in 2020, it will include enumeration of functional indicators, which will be above and beyond any stool test capability in the market today. So look forward to more information. I do have a YouTube that I did this morning just on the stool test. If you want more information on that, just let me know. I'm now going to close the presentation and open up the floor for any questions that you may have. Hello.
Hi, Tracy.
Hi, how are you all doing? Did this trigger any questions?
Can you hear me, Tracy?
Yes.
This is Nadia.
Nadia, I hear you.
Okay, so my question is, you know how we come in when we're doing a regular stool test, and then we're looking for the dysbiosis, parasites, you know, all the different pathogens and stuff like that, and we go in to kill. So from what I'm understanding is you're saying basically we shouldn't do that, and we should use these products because these will settle the balance nicely without having to go after them.
Yes, our approach, instead of trying to decide on which killing agents and which type of protocol to go in, is to first let the intelligent modulation that Megaspore can provide, because it has a better sense of which keystone organisms to increase and which pathogens to go after. Every person's microbiome is a unique fingerprint. The stool tests that exist today do not give us a clear indication of what is normal for that particular individual. So we may be deciding on eradicating certain organisms that are part of this person's natural and normal microbiome. So once this new technology is launched, we'll have a better picture of what the normal microbiome is of the individual. We also know that some of the killing agents that are available hurt some of the normal microbiome flora. And it's important to start with Megaspore because it gives us so much information about the tolerance of this individual, what state their immune system is in, how much dysbiosis, and how much gut damage is going on. And we know that if they have any symptoms. Generally, we start Megaspore at 1 capsule every other day for a week, and then 1 capsule a day for a week, and then 2 at the 3rd week. But we know from experience that those individuals that struggle with even 1 capsule every other day do much better when it's divided in half. So about 80% of the individuals do well with the normal titration schedule. And in the 20% that don't, then when you slow it down and divide that capsule into half of that 20% will be okay. And then you still have a 10% that struggle. And these are individuals that are highly sensitive. They're producing an extreme amount of lipopolysaccharide that gives them all sorts of symptoms. So once we either go slower with Megaspore or step down to HU58 or RestorFlora and titrate that up and then graduate them to Megaspore, we know that that is helping train their immune system. Some immune systems are so damaged they can't tolerate all 5 spores. So in time, when they start with the 1, graduate to the 2, and then 2 to the 5, it's training their immune system in the Treg recognition. And you're also working on the other components of healing the gut, to where their immune system is working properly and their gut can then heal. So we feel like this process will give you an indication if there still persists an overgrowth. It's at that point that you could go in with a MMycoBalance, because very often yeast is an opportunistic pathogen that everyone has. If their immune system is compromised, it helps to reduce the yeast. And then there's also ingredients we found very effective, like biocidin. But we would say first go with the titration and the total gut restoration approach, then the MMycoBalance, and then look for other killing agents if those don't succeed first.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So even if they had H. pylori or any strong parasite, we start off with the protocols that you're talking about and then check in after. I mean, what, do you do a retest or do you just do it for 4 or 5 months?
H. pylori is a specific case as well. If it's causing a lot of upper digestive symptoms and dyspepsia, that's why we created the MGuard. For compliance, if someone has acute symptoms, it's very effective to help relieve those, and then they're more compliant to do the longer-term gut healing protocol. So you can start the MGuard a couple of weeks just before you start the total gut restoration, and then in turn, keeping them off of the PPIs and using the MGuard instead will be a longer term solution for them to not disrupt the intestinal flora with other pharmaceutical drugs. And the typical timing for most people is 3 months. If someone has severe symptoms, such as IBS, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's, so forth, I have them calculate how many years they've had these severe symptoms. If it's 6 years, then I would give them a month for every year to heal. So it would be 6 months of healing, to give them a more realistic expectation of time.
That makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome. Great questions. Any more?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear. Is that Mary or Ingrid?
Ingrid.
Ingrid. Okay.
Oh, well, I wasn't sure because I'm, the sound's coming through my speakers and I have a headset on. So anyway, I'm really interested in this, what the YouTube that you did on the test that you can do.
Yes.
A stool sap. So how would that work? I mean, I'm just curious. Would you send a sample of someone's stool?
Yes. So once that launches, have you done other stool tests before that are on the market?
I actually never have. No.
Yeah. Well, it's the same collection as far as, well, the beginning part, the actual collection of the stool is the same. What's different in the stool test is a core sampler. So everything is pretty much the same except the core sampling. And yes, the sample is then sent off to a testing lab. And this is the best way to find out really what's going on in the gut environment.
Yeah, no, that would be, because people can have all kinds of symptoms. And unless, you really have that sample, it could be a hit and miss. You think you know what they have, but, it's like having that lab result would be so valuable to put them on the right path.
Exactly. And I think, stool tests have been out there, but the technology has been really hit and miss. So this is why we're looking at this. It's called multi-genomic sequencing. Short name for it is shotgun, but it's the difference in being able to differentiate between actual strains of bacteria, which is important because even within a genus in a family, such as Escherichia coli, you've got commensals, but you also have hemorrhagic E. coli. So that's why it's important to be able to differentiate at that level.
Yes. Because I'm just saying, since you have all the science, you've figured so much out, you can see exactly what's going on. It would help that would be a huge help. So how much would the test cost, or do you know an approximate price for this test?
Yes, a phase 2 part of the test is listed at $299, which is the lower range of most of these stool tests that are out there. And then phase 2 will be available sometime in 2020.
Okay. So what's phase 1?
Phase 1 it's going to give you more information than what most stool tests have on the market. Phase 2 is going to be what I call the Tesla Mars launch, because it's going to give enumeration of actual functional tests, such as short chain fatty acids, beta glucuronidase, sulfates. I mean, it's above and beyond what any of the other tests have even thought of.
Okay. So this is what you guys are launching. So is there availability now of a phase 1 test? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, not till the end of this year, beginning of next year.
Okay, but you will have there'll be 2 different types of tests available. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, just because we didn't want to hold up the test that's the part of the test that's already done and ready to go for this more advanced that nobody has even thought of. So we're going to launch what we have, and then, like I said, we'll have a new and improved maybe this time next year.
Wow. Okay. That's exciting. Very exciting. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I can get the YouTube about that. Were you gonna send it to us?
Yes, I did that this morning. I will include that with this video as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? We covered quite a few products.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that the vitamin K2 is very often overlooked, but it makes sense that individuals, especially since, you know, it's understood now. It took a long time for allopathic doctors to get on the bandwagon about vitamin D, but then the pendulum has swung to almost an overuse of the vitamin D without the K2 and caused vitamin K2 deficiencies. So it's important to get that message out that high doses of vitamin D3 are causing vitamin K2 deficiencies and causing calcium deposits in the soft tissue.
I like that product and I use it quite a lot. The only problem I have with it is the zinc content, because it's quite high. It's 30.
Yes.
So it's a problem, like if somebody is on, let's say, on a thyroid synergy, or they're doing other supplements that contain the zinc, it's like I just feel that's an overdose. Like they'll be consuming 60,
right?
You know. So
yes.
And specifically when you want to say, okay, we're going to use it for 2-3 months, it's like, then what's going to happen to our copper? You
exactly.
know.
And
So I'm not sure.
That's exactly why we came out with the MyoMax, for that reason. If anyone is on, you know, supplementation, then they can very easily exceed that zinc or even the magnesium dose, because that's highly individual. So the MyoMax has no zinc and no magnesium.
I see. Okay, so it's just the K2, K1,
Correct.
K2. Yeah. Okay. So I'll look into that. I never realized that. I'll look into it.
I did see, you know, Microbiome Labs very rarely has sales, but just prior to jumping onto this Zoom, I saw an offer go out in the email that there's a MyoMax sale going on, and I think it's offering a discount for the entire shopping cart. So you might check your email and take advantage of that, especially since you just realized you needed it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Well, I'll give you time as well. If you think of a question after we've ended, please just shoot me an email or text. And I'm so happy you joined me, and I hope to hear from you and see you on future lunchtime Zoom Club. I want to keep you up to date and well educated.
Thank you, Tracy.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you.
Take care and have a very happy Thanksgiving if I don't talk to you before then.
Thank you, Tracy.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.